Welcome to the ABOV Mentality Podcast, inspiring stories of success by extraordinary people. And now, your host, H.J. Sanchez.
Hello, everybody. My name is H.J. Sanchez. For those of you who don't know me, I have over 20 years experience in the healthcare industry and many other industries. And most recently, I am the owner and founder of ABOV Headwear brand. And through these 20 years, 20 plus years, I have the privilege of meeting great people, visionaries, pioneers, with great stories, successful stories, stories of courage, resilience, overcoming challenges. So this is my mission to this podcast to be the platform to share those stories. And I'm super honored to have this next guest as my first ever guest. So I'm going to introduce him. His name is Ervin Rodriguez. Hi, Ervin.
Hi AJ, how you doing, my friend?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me for your first podcast. That's super exciting.
Yes. Oh, super excited. Thank you so much for being here. Ervin, I missed the introduction or your introduction in purpose because I wanted for you to introduce yourself. I mean, and the first question is, who is Ervin Rodriguez?
Oh, wow. So Ervin is a passionate guy. Professionally, I am a vice president of regulatory in GlaxoSmithKline, GSK. I've been in the pharma and manufacturing industry for more than 25 years, work in banking, work in semiconductors, and I've changed career many times. So it's quite an interesting journey career-wise. I'm also the father of a daughter that is going to NC State in the fall, so I'm super proud of
Yes.
that. I'm the
Congrats.
husband of my wife Vivian, and I'm also the founder of Garage Buds. It's an
There you
automotive
go.
YouTube channel. So at some point, I'm sure we're going to talk about that too.
There you go. So we have in common the banking industry. We have in common passionate guys, family guys, also, let's say, the founders of different businesses. So we have a lot in common. Irving, you were born and raised in Puerto Rico, right?
I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, in San Juan, and I moved to the U.S. what now 14 years ago, and
Okay.
I moved because of work, and so I lived in North Carolina for the last 14 years.
Nice. I want to take you back to those days in Puerto Rico, Irving, just for the audience to get to know you more or deeper, right? Tell me, how was your childhood? I mean, growing up in Puerto Rico, how was your childhood?
Growing up was interesting because I think maybe you and I are part of the last generation that used to
Hmm,
play outside. Yeah, before
that's
video
true.
games, and there was Atari, obviously, and all of that. But I grew up in a rural area next to a lake, so I did fishing. I did a lot of bicycling. I did basketball, football. I mean, I played every sport that I could. I was with my friends out on the street
Yes.
all day long and all night long, and I'm proud that I did that because my daughter never knew what that means, right? The
Nope.
new generation, they don't
Neither do
spend time
mine.
outside, right? So that was great, a loving family, I have to say. With my brother, we grew up in that area, which was close to the city, but at the same time was rural. So it was great. I used to eat fruit out of a tree, right? Not many
Got it.
people today can say that. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So Irving, you went to obviously to college. What's your background?
So I went to the University of Puerto Rico, and then I did postgraduate studies in industrial psychology. So
Oh, wow.
industrial organizational psychology, um, and yeah, I completed my master's before then seeking employment in industry.
Okay.
So yeah, so you see what I do today and some of the careers that I had, and you
So many
don't
changes.
necessarily link it to an industrial psychologist, but clearly, every job I've done in my life, I always look for the people element of it, and which is the part that I know the best, and that's probably has been some of the secret of my success. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. So when you went, I mean, you graduate college with what in mind? I mean, you wanted to be what?
So I think typically, if you have that kind of background, you end up in human resources,
Human resource.
HR, or training. My first love, my real passion is training and development. Yeah. So I started my
Interesting.
career in training, and to this day, it's one of my passions. So
Yeah.
I started my career at Intel, the semiconductor company, computer
Okay.
industry, and I was a training specialist there. And
Under human resources.
it was reporting into human resources, where I
Okay.
was in the technical training area, um, and it was a period of a lot of growth in the company. We were hiring thousands of people, so training was critical to
Hmm.
enable people to then be able to be at the manufacturing line and operate. So yeah, with an industrial psychology degree, you can go into different areas of HR. You can go into
Yes.
compensation. You can go into employee relations. You can, because you understand all the people processes inside the company. But my passion was training and development, and that's
Training.
where I
Okay.
sort of specialized. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Okay. So that was Intel in Puerto Rico.
Yes.
And then what happened then? I mean,
So I worked for Intel for like 7 years. To this day, I have to say, probably the best company I've worked with. It was exciting. It was the 90s. It was the internet revolution. It was the invention of the Pentium chip. I mean, being there it couldn't be more exciting. And then, they announced that they were closing the site in Puerto
hmm,
Rico. They wanted to relocate me to Arizona. At that point, I had more of a regional role. So I couldn't move to Arizona, but then I
okay,
decided to stay in the island, and then I secure employment with Banco Popular, which is the largest bank
the
in
largest
Puerto
bank in
Rico and
Puerto
probably
Rico.
the biggest private employer in the island. And I did that. My grandfather used to work for Banco Popular, and he retired from there. So it was like me saying, you know what, this could be something cool. My father was in banking also. So I joined Banco Popular, and I spent 2 years there, only 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
As well in human resources, right?
I went into HR, and that's when I got closer to tech implementations, because part of my job was to help implement SAP as the
Okay.
global HR system in the
Yes.
bank. So I did that as an internal, they call it internal consultant on organizational development. Um, yeah, that was a very interesting experience, but I didn't enjoy it, to be honest with you.
It was more like transitional
Banking
process.
industry is different from. I mean, I used to come from manufacturing, was very dynamic. I'm a change agent. I consider myself, and when you join a bank that has been successful for 100 years, they don't feel they
Yeah.
need to change anything. Um, so I started looking to go back into manufacturing, which is what happened next. I went in, and that's when I went into the pharma industry.
Got it. And that's where JSK.
No, I went to work for what used to be called Sharing Cloud, which is
Oh.
today is Merck.
Yep.
Um, and Sharing was having problems with the FDA, so they needed somebody to run the training department, training and communications back then. So I went in, and that was a very intense experience working on a consent decree with FDA. So I did that for about less than a year, actually, about 10 months. And
Oh,
at
wow.
that time, GSK itself was
Mhm.
getting into issues with FDA. and they wanted to bring people that could help remediate, and that's when GSK hired me. And I've been with GSK ever since. This is
Ever
my
since.
21st year with GSK. Yeah.
Ervin, so far I identify, I mean, getting to know you, how many changes has occurred in your professional career. Let's talk about a little bit about change. I mean, do you feel comfortable in change? What is your mentality in regards to change? How do you adapt? Tell me more.
Yeah, well, so my philosophy is I I am by default have to be comfortable with change because it's you can't control it, right? Change is going to happen, like it or not. So I'd rather be on the side of provoking the change than having to adapt to it. So I like to think of myself as a change provocateur rather than even a change agent, right? So
That's a great line, by the way.
I'm continuously looking for ways to implement change, to not be comfortable, right? And this is something that is big with me, that I tell people I coach and mentor that you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And
Yes.
that's what I try to do all the time. If I'm sitting there and it's been 6 months and everything is fine and dandy and rosy and perfect, I start getting nervous
Yes,
because I
that's true.
I I don't want somebody to come to me and say, hey, you need to get to the next target condition, or you need to improve that process, or you need to be looking at what AI can do for you. No, I'd rather be the one investigating and interrogating how can I go to the next level before somebody tells me to do it, right? So in
Wow.
that way, I keep it dynamic, and I always keep my teams on the edge, right? And interested, because I feel that adrenaline is needed. First, it keeps you young, right?
Yep.
It keeps you relevant, right?
Totally.
You can start losing your hair, you can start getting some gray, but honestly, you are seeing more like a millennial than some of the millennials, right?
Yep.
Because you're always looking to innovate. So I think that's the way I would describe my approach to change. Yeah.
That's super interesting, Irving. I heard it was not a quote. I heard this person talking about training and how people learn, and it was a she. She was saying like you. I mean, you can't adapt your training to the individual. The individual needs to adapt to the training because when you feel uncomfortable, that's when you expand, you get challenged, and that's where you learn more.
Yes.
So it's so
Yeah.
true, right?
I'm also very competitive, and you know this, Umberto. So, and I'm competitive professionally, but I'm competitive against myself, right?
Sure.
So I'm continuously looking at what is it that I don't know enough of? What is it that other people are knowing that I still don't know? What is it that I can know before anybody else, right? And I'll give you an example, right? I remember telling people about ChatGPT many months ago when nobody knew what that was, right? And I get people now coming to me like, Ervin, you're the first person that told me about this. And now it's all over the world. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm always looking, because I'm competitive at what is it that I need to know before other people know, right?
Sure.
And that
And Irving, how do you do that? How do you keep yourself well ahead the curve?
I have a voracious appetite for information. So I watch the news every day. Um, I hear the news on the way to work. Yeah, I could listen to music. I listen to music in the afternoon when I'm driving back.
Sure. When it's
But
done.
in the morning, I want to know what's going on. I read a lot, and not books. I'm surrounded by books. Yeah, I read some books, but I read a lot. My brain operates in bullets, right? I think my
Same
brain is
thing.
organized as a PowerPoint presentation, not a Word document. Yeah.
Same here.
So I'm continuously looking at um, knowing knowing something about many things rather than knowing a lot about one thing, right? So that's the definition of a generalist. I like to know something about many things rather than knowing a lot or being a specialist about one or two things, right? So I'm always looking for information, and then I go deeper and explore, and I spend a lot of time on YouTube rather than watching TV. So I'm learning, I'm teaching myself how to do things. I'm trying
Yes.
to learn some tricks in photography right now, and I'm watching videos on photography tricks, right? Because I want to get better. So, and the same I do with other topics, right? So I think that's part of my process. It's I like to self teach myself many things, and I've been able to do that over my career.
That's also very interesting, Irving. And I mean, that's 100% true. Even though I'm the marketeer here, we share information, and sometimes it's you bringing me the information. Hey, this is the latest on XY platform, and this is the latest on formats and so on. So yeah, that's I can testify to that. Um, Irving, so that's again JSK. What happened with JSK, and I want to take you to that specific moment when you had to make the decision to leave the island to go to North Carolina.
Well, so first of all, I mean the experience at the GSK site in Puerto Rico is and will be to this day, and probably for the rest of my life, the most intense professional development experience of my life. I was on a consent decree, the biggest in industry to this day, um, working with 70 expats from all over the world. I was the only local leader in the leadership team. By that time, I was leading HR at the site.
Okay.
Um, and I aspired to run the place, which is not typical for an HR person to run the business. So I said, I want to do this. I created a rotation program for myself so that I could aspire to be the site director, general manager. And, and it happened.
Okay.
They gave me the opportunity, and I became the general manager, site director, which is to this day the most intense job I've ever had. And part of what I was tasked to do was to lead the site through its closure. So we closed the operations in Puerto Rico,
Wow.
and then I knew what I wanted to do next, which was to go back to a global HR role, having been a business leader, because I wanted to be that HR leader that knows the language of the business.
Got
So
it.
that was the path, right? We closed the site on a Wednesday, and then I moved with my family to North Carolina on the Thursday, the next day. I got
Oh
on the plane.
wow.
My family was already here waiting for me. So I got on the plane and landed here in a role as head of HR for the US operations in GSK, which was great. And I did that for a bit less than a year before I got promoted to vice president of global HR for pharma supply chain. So I was
Great.
always in supply chain, right? Manufacturing is my first love.
Mm-hmm.
So so then from there I started moving different careers. I don't know if you want me to walk you through that, but that's when things became interesting, if I'm honest, right? So
Okay, let's put a pause on there on that.
yeah.
And again, let me explain the audience that transition, leaving the island, moving to US, because I experienced the same. And there's a lot of, I mean, you and I, we're both Puerto Rican. There's a lot of Puerto Rican forced to do that move. So walk us over what
Yeah.
happened in your career.
Yeah, I mean, it's an adaptation. I won't say it's easy. I have the benefit of speaking the language, right? Um, and then, it was hard on my wife. My daughter didn't know a word of English. That was my number one stress. It wasn't
Yes.
about me. It was about my little daughter going to preschool and not knowing how to communicate. And I was freaking out.
Yes, I
Freaking
can
out.
relate to that.
I'm freaking out. A problem that got solved in 3 months because children are sponges, right?
So
And
true.
now she tells me that she doesn't know what I speak. Her English is,
Way
incredible,
better.
right? Oh yeah. So, that was my biggest stress, right? But having said that, Humberto, and you're here too. I mean, if you're gonna move to a place, North Carolina is one of the best places, right?
Yes.
It's a great place to be outside. You get all the seasons here. It's not extreme weather any time of the year. People are friendly. There's a
Super
southern
friendly. Yes.
hospitality, and there's a lot of people moving from the north. So it's a pretty interesting place, a melting pot. A lot of people from India, China, other places are coming here for
Yes.
tech jobs, and it's a growing area for employment and industry and so on. So, I think it was the right move, and this is home now, right? I won't say it was easy at the beginning. It took us a few years to get adapted, but I feel we're there now. I miss Puerto Rico. My family is there. It's my island. It's my language. That's
Definitely.
where I feel like
Mhm.
a fish in the sea, right? But I've met great people here, and I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, I totally relate to that story, Irvin. I basically, it happened for me as well, our family. I remember like I don't want to go. I don't want to go. So it was because of work, and I started asking crazy things to my employer. No, I wanted this, I wanted that. And they were saying yes, yes. Shit, man. But then after like say a month or two, I was driving with my wife, and I look at her and I told her like, if we knew this before, we will move, I mean, way back, way earlier. So I mean, great experience living here in North Carolina. So definitely I can relate to that. So JSK, so now you are VP of Human Resources. That's what you said, right?
Uh, yeah, a year after I moved, I was promoted to vice president, and I had reports all over the world. So I had to be up at all
Global
hours of
role.
the day and the night, to interact with my team. And it was super exciting, right? There were more than 100 factories back then, and I was head of HR for the pharma side of things,
Okay.
which, I had to travel a lot to the UK and other places as part of that
Mm-hmm.
job. Um, After less than 2 years in that role, uh, I'm not gonna lie, I I was itching to be closer to the business again. Yeah.
Okay.
And then at that point, the president of manufacturing retired, and the new president, he was launching a supply chain transformation program, big program, and he gathered a team of 25 people to be based in London for a year,
Okay.
along with McKinsey as consultants, to transform the supply chain in every way. And I was selected to be one of those 25. So I spent most of the year in the UK. I was traveling literally every 2 weeks,
Yeah.
which was hard on family, and it was
Yeah.
hard on me. I'm not gonna lie. It was intense. It was pretty insane, to be honest with you. The
Okay.
amount of travel and even traveling Europe and interacting with McKinsey, and it was so intense. Um, and at that point, at the end of that year, I wanted to go back to a business role and not really go back to HR. I was representing HR in the project, but I didn't want to go to back to a classic HR role. And I almost leave the company.
Oh,
Literally, I
wow.
was interviewing with another big pharma for a
After how many years with JSK?
at that point was the end of 2012, so that would have been, I don't know, like 7 years, 7 8 years.
Okay. Wow.
Um, so at that point, I was interviewing, and then at that point is when the head of quality in manufacturing said, "Ervin, why don't you move to quality?" And we put together a role because we that will be in charge of global training. This is where the circle of life,
The
right?
full circle.
Yeah, global training and other areas, and how to and implementing a human factors program that the company didn't have to investigate how many deviations we had in manufacturing that were attributed to human error.
Oh wow,
So I thought that was interesting, and I decided
super
to stay
interesting.
and change my career from what it was until then into a quality professional. And that was a great challenge, because how do you convince quality people, mostly pharmacists, biologists, chemists, that you are one of them, right? And it
Hard to
took
do.
me at least a good 3 years for them to see that I was quality all around. And implemented the human factors program that is still in place. So I created that for the company. I led global training, and then started getting other things added into my team. And it was I spent probably the last 9 years in quality in different roles. Um, but my role changed at some point in 2017, which is
Okay.
an inflection point in my career.
Put a pause there, Ervin,
Uh,
because I wanna discuss with you moving into quality. You talk about convincing others that you're one of them and then you know your stuff. That's leadership, right? I mean,
it's
plain
leadership.
and simple.
Yeah.
Describe for me how you did it.
Well, first of all, I needed to know enough to be dangerous. So, but I had worked years in a consent decree with FDA. So I was very close to quality and compliance.
Okay.
So compliance was second nature because HR is all about compliance too, right? So that part I had
So true.
covered, but I went deep into reading and understanding the regulations,
Okay.
the FDA regulations, the CFR. I went into detail. I did a lot of reading because I needed to understand at least the basics so that I could speak the language.
Sure.
I think when people start hearing you talking like a quality professional and going into even technical and scientific terms, they start forgetting that you are whatever you used to be, and that
That's true.
happened. It took a good 3 years, right?
Okay.
But I made it hard for people to question, yeah, and I did it through measurable results. One thing is what I know and what I can demonstrate and my leadership, but I tackled uh, a quality problem and I designed the solution for it. So if
Okay.
you think
Interesting.
about all the deviations in manufacturing, at that point, 47% of them were classified as human error. And my
Big
program
number.
I designed was to understand that 47% and then to design appropriate CAPAs to correct those issues. And we took that 47% down to 17%.
Wow.
So I reduced 30% globally of deviations attributed to humans by understanding the human process better. At that
Perfect.
point, with those numbers, with the data, you're one of them at that point because you're addressing a quality problem, and that has a huge impact in our ability to supply product to the patients. So
Definitely.
that's the way I would say you do it, is by earning it, by demonstrating with measurable results.
Great. And getting to know your stuff, right? I mean, you
Yes,
went
you
you
have to.
went deep into the
You have to.
data and the information.
Yes, totally.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So that's that's we're still talking about JSK, that's quality, and then you said there was an inflection point there.
The inflection point is the proudest moment of my career, and that would be
That
hard to
was one of
top.
the questions, so you will answer two in one. Perfect.
That's hard to top, honestly. In 2017, I was leading a team, and as part of that team, we were responsible for lab systems and SAP and other sort of data systems in quality. And I knew, or I saw, that data was going to become the biggest driver in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
At that year, at the end of 17, I was told that I was going to be made redundant in the company. They were going to fully eliminate my team and my role.
Oh
And
wow.
my team, most of them were going to be redeployed to other parts of quality. But my role as VP of quality systems at that point was going to disappear. That's probably August, September of 17, and the role was going to be eliminated by the spring of 2018. Yeah.
Wow.
So I said, well, that's great that at least I know, right? Um, so I went on a cruise with the family, and this is the true story, right? As it happened, I took a nice bottle of wine with me, a prisoner, for those that like wine, and then I said to my family one day, leave me here in the balcony of our stateroom. I need time with pen and paper and my bottle of wine because I'm gonna come up with. I have some ideas I want to put on paper, and I designed a functioning quality that was uh, organized around data as the protagonist. This is me anticipating that data was going to become
Sure.
the most important thing along with product. And I designed an organization um, that was all about organizing data, doing analytics, and then improving operations through understanding of data and better systems. I came back. Remember, I knew I had a date, so I came
Sure.
back that Monday. I looked at my boss sitting there, and I said, "Listen, I know it was done. It's done. I just have some ideas. I'd like to present them to you, and then for you to consider or not." I said, "Okay, let me have a look." And I said, "No, give me a couple of days because I want to do some financial analysis about
Okay.
how much my ideas will cost." Which I got some friends from finance to give me some numbers. And then I said, no, I'm ready to present it to you. So we got into a little conference room, and I went in and I said, I'm going to give you three options for you to consider or think about. And then I had some PowerPoint ready, and I presented him option A, which was a reduction of my team, a 15% reduction to save some. And then for quality to keep the team, but for us to focus on data and everything that I was saying. This is going to be
Okay.
needed going forward. We can make this happen. Option B, which was, I will investigate a way that other parts of GSK can pay for us, and we get out of quality. You don't have the cost, but maybe the tech IT area will
Like a
be
shared
willing,
service.
yeah, like a shared service, so I can explore that, and see what happens. And I said to him, so what do you think? And I did it on purpose because he said, you told me there were three options. And I said, I'm glad you asked. So I closed the GSK PowerPoint template and I opened a template with my own company logo that I created, which was a consulting firm that I was going to launch with my logo, everything else. And I said, the third option is you let me go now. You give me my severance package. I set this up as an external company and I sell everything I told you as a service to GSK. And I'll give you 5 years exclusivity before I go to Merck and Pfizer and the others. So I can do this externally. You don't have the cost. You contract my company. I just need 2 months to set this up. And he said, but who's your employees? Are people going with you? And I said, yeah, I got some people. Who are they? I can't tell you. That's classified.
Yes.
So he said, well, where is this? You have a logo? You have, yeah, everything is done. LLC, I did all of that.
LLC, everything.
So he was confused, and he said, I have a meeting with the president, and let me talk to him about this. We're going to dinner tonight, because I knew the president was traveling. I said, yeah, no, take your time. I know I'm out here in a few months.
Sure.
I'm just giving you
Nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose, right? Walk in the next morning, 7 a.m. He was already sitting there, and he saw me like 100 feet from me, and he said, option A. I'm like, what? So that was it. They decided to keep my team. I would deliver 15% improvement, and the plan to make me redundant was eliminated right there.
Oof.
And that, to me, is the best moment of my career, because I was facing the reality of losing my job.
Yes.
It provoked my creativity. Now, ask me if I look back, I should have done my company. But then again, everything worked out. Let's put it that way. So that was, you can't believe how proud I was and my team, because I kept their jobs too. And then we became the quality systems team. When I did that proposal, I had 22 people in my team. That team today has 75 people. And nobody thinks about eliminating that team, because it's an essential part of quality. So definitely. I'm super proud to look back and say, look at all those people. That happened in a napkin on a cruise ship with a bottle of wine, which is what wine? The Prisoner.
Got me. Prisoner. There you go. Won't forget Prisoner.
Yeah.
Wow, so, Ervin, I think that it's a great story. Once again, the only constant is change, but in this time, the only constant is pressure. And under pressure, pressure gets the best out of us.
That's right.
Wow. Always incredible.
Yeah.
Great story, Ervin.
And just to close the story, I stayed in quality then for many more years, until a year and a half ago that I changed my career again. And I moved into R&D, regulatory. So it's the first time that I'm out of supply chain. I moved into R&D, not knowing much, into regulatory, an area that I've never been, into a new role. And again, the adrenaline flowing again, right? And it's going well so far. So I'm in my second year in that role, but it's my 6th career in GSK.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that story, Ervin. Great one. I want to move now into a more Ervin, the person. I know you, but for the audience, what are your passions? Tell me about the music you like. Tell me about the food you like, drinks that you like. Tell me more about your lifestyle.
I love music. I'm a collector of vinyl records. I'm an audiophile. I love to look for perfection in the reproduction of music. So I love every kind of music. Honestly, I have in my collection. It's pretty eclectic. But I'm a rocker at heart.
I know.
I'm a rocker at heart. Put me some Led Zeppelin and that's it. You lose me. That's it. So I love my rock music, and my daughter has inherited the taste now, and she's a fan of Fleetwood Mac and all. It's super cool to watch. So yeah, music important. Wine. I'm a little bit of a wine snob. I love my wine, my red wine. But I'm also in a constant lookout for the best bottle of wine under $25. That's a lifelong challenge. I have 2 challenges in life: the best bottle of wine under $25, and the best ribeye. So
Oof.
always order the ribeye because I'm looking for
Oof.
the perfect ribeye. And I hope
Wow.
to keep that search for the rest of my life until the doctor said
Yeah.
down on the red meat. But right, but that's it.
That is a career in itself. Looking for the best ribeye and the best.
I'll be happy to dedicate my life to that. Um, so the food, my favorite food is Argentinian food.
Okay.
So is my favorite, which is a by itself is a fusion with Italian, right?
Yeah.
Um, and obviously, Puerto Rican food, which is
Oh yeah.
it's a
What's
separate.
what's your favorite dish? Puerto Rican dish, by the way.
Oh, I would say carne guisada, right?
Oh,
Which is like a beef stew,
that's my
very,
wife favorite
very
as well.
tender. You have to marinate that for hours, and it's like melts in your mouth.
No, 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 no.
With
On top
rice
of
and red
on top of
beans,
white rice.
white rice, red beans, and some tostones, some plantains. That's
Love it, love it,
you give me
love
that,
it.
I'm good to go. Yeah. Um,
Nice,
so
nice.
that those are, I mean, food, drink, music,
And
and cars. It's my passion.
oh, I was
My
about to say you're missing the biggest passion of yours, which is cars.
cars.
And actually, I'm putting here for those of you watching on the
Oh,
YouTube channel. There's the Garage Butt logo. So, Irving, talk to me about Garage Butt.
it's an automotive YouTube channel. During the pandemic, well, before the pandemic, I had an Audi TT that I bought secondhand, and I restored a lot of that car. Never took video. I took many pictures. He had a presence on Instagram, many followers across the world. There's a big following of that little car. Filming, some of it, I should have done it, but then the pandemic hit, and
Yes.
what happened. Some people learned how to bake. Some people started painting.
Yep.
Some people lost weight, and bought their Peloton. I decided to really get serious about, a YouTube channel, and
Yep.
I created Garage Buds. Um, and it's the way I reduce my stress. Yeah, it's all about car culture. It's all about car events. It's about
Nice.
do it yourself and working yourself in cars, not being professional mechanic or anything like that, but finding ways to improve cars and document the journey of people and their cars. So the tagline for GarageBots is people that love cars, because at the end
People
it's
that
all
love
about
cars.
people. Like
That's
I
great.
told you about my normal career, this one too. I met the most interesting people in the car community and their passion for cars, and they have incredible stories. And I always interested in why did you pick that car? What makes it special for you? And that's the angle I try to get every time I do interviews on cars or car reviews. I'm interested in the people angle, aside from admiring those beautiful machines, right?
Oh
So
yes.
so
So
yeah.
two questions for you. How many followers and how many views so far?
Um, so I have subscribers. I reached 50,000 recently, which is ridiculous. I never expected
Great number.
to have that. Views, you could say, somebody can get that on a weekend, but it's 2.5 million, which is not bad. Thinking of people watching my videos 2.5 million times, it's
It's
mind
crazy.
blowing,
Mind
right?
blowing.
And it's not a
And
huge
that
channel. It's a small YouTube channel, right? And it's mostly local here to this area, and I got fans all over the world, right? But yeah, it's great. And then on Instagram, I am just about to get to 100,000 followers, right?
wow.
And that's where the growth is. It's Instagram.
Okay. Okay.
YouTube uh, doesn't agree with the TikTok generation. They want 7 seconds of video, not a long video, but that's
I
okay,
know. I
right?
know.
So I do it for fun.
So that takes me to my next question. I mean, being a VP of a healthcare company, your responsibilities are global. and then you have a side job, let's call it that way, a passion, which is garage. But um, how you do it, plus a family man, of course.
Yeah.
How you do that? How you
And
manage your time?
I'm glad you asked me that question because some people wonder, and to be honest, some people might misinterpret, right? Because they, as it happens, I might be in a serious work meeting at the middle of the day on a Wednesday, and then suddenly in GarageBot is posting a reel on Instagram of a car, and people think
That you did it right there.
that I'm doing it in the office or so I'm glad you asked me that because it's my chance to clarify how this works, right? I I created a workflow. And I think everyone should have a workflow when they have other passions, right? So I think the way I work on this is I I defined what I needed to do in terms of content for YouTube, Instagram, for Shorts, for TikTok, for Threads, for Pinterest, all of that,
All the platforms.
right? And I decide what will be the content for that week, and I can spend. It takes me now about half an hour on a Sunday to upload, preload all of those postings and
Okay,
put even the times that they will be released and the days that they will be released. So I'm not doing anything over the week. Things are being uploaded
sure.
automatically, but people don't know that. People think I'm just doing it as I'm in a meeting, right? That's not how it works. I think the part of my workflow that takes more time from me is editing videos when I take videos for the channel. But I also have a good workflow there because I know the tool better now. I preload the music. I have the transitions preloaded, and editing a video takes me probably half an hour or less now when it used
Okay,
to take me hours, right? And I don't do that every day, right? I post 3 or 4 videos a month, so it's not a big deal. I do it on the weekends or at night if I have some time left. And then I make it in such a way that it doesn't add any stress to me and that it doesn't interfere with my
other
day
responsibilities.
job, right? Because
Correct.
I'm glad you asked me that, right? Because some people ask me, how do you do it? Now, I can tell you, if I go to a car event like Cars and Coffee, and I remember, when I started this, there were like 3 or 4 YouTubers taking video of the event, right? And I said, and this is me being competitive again, right? I said, okay, what will make a difference here, right? And I looked around, and those YouTubers, if the Cars and Coffee was on Saturday, you will see the video posted on the Tuesday or the Wednesday of the following week, right? And I said, if I release the video 2 hours after the event, then the GarageBot video is the one that people are going to see.
Sure.
And every other video will be repetitive. So I started working on my workflow to just run here from Cars and Coffee, put the video on the computer, edit it, and publish it. And 2 hours after the event, some of the other YouTubers came to me like, dude, you're killing us. What
How
is
you
this?
do it?
What are you doing? I was like, well, I'm just fast, because once you watch the first video of an event, you don't want to watch the rest of it. I mean, I'm not criticizing my other YouTube colleagues.
No, no,
Everyone
no.
has a different style, different content. My angle was be the fastest out there. Yeah.
It's still a competition, friendly competition, but it's still a
Yeah, it's fine.
competition.
That's fine.
Um, and you said it best. I mean, the fastest, the first in market is
First
top
in
of
market,
mind.
right? Like
It's
in
top of
every
mind.
industry, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
So
including your hobbies, right? So if we wanna play basketball, which I know I'm gonna beat you, but
no,
you will try your best to do so, right?
no, I won't let you win. If that's what you're asking me to do. I'm gonna beat you badly, and that's okay, right? There might be other sports where you're better than me, but
Go find another sport.
basketball is gonna be hard for you, my friend.
There you go. There you go. Ervin, I think that's a great note to finish our show. It's been 15 minutes nonstop for the first podcast. I think it's
Wow.
great. I want to summarize this podcast just saying, I mean, during these 50 minutes, I mean, it's obviously your leadership. When you decided to make a move, you go deep into it, right? Your adaptability, your competitiveness is great there. And then lastly is like how well you organize things for then to establish a workflow that will make you save time in order to be more productive or to have more time to spend in other things. So is that fair?
That's fair. And I think I will add one more thing, which is to me very important, you know, and I think I told you this before recording it. Choose and appoint your own board of directors. So I have people that challenge me, that don't agree with me, that will
Yes.
always, and my father is the chairman of that board, right? So I go to him for counsel. Most of the time he's wrong. No, I'm just kidding. But he's the and your family. There's friends, like you, HJ. I go to you or you come to me. Because you need to be challenged, right?
Yes.
And I think that having a board of directors for yourself is critical, and that's
That's
the
great.
support you need. When things are more difficult or challenging. So yeah, everything you said, and I will add that at the end. And I think it's the secret of success. Yeah.
Yes. I think to the audience listening, I mean, who is in your board of directors? That's a great question to ask. So I leave it there. Erwin, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure. I hope the audience like it too. And see you next time.
Thank you for inviting me, AJ, and see you next time. Take care.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Above Mentality Podcast. If you enjoyed the stories and insights shared today, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with friends and family. Your feedback is very important to us. Stay connected with us on social media or visit us at aboveheadwear.com. Remember, live the above mentality and keep rising above. See you next time.